Lott,
Honey.
John Masters. We do have a quorum.
Yeah.
Ask for a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to be approved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and first reports, Bruce Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. First thing on my agenda, I'd like to request some time off to work on my doctorate, if that's okay. On a serious note, back in my day, when I was going to college, I do have a master's. I do have a superintendent certificate with, that's 32 hours above my master's. And if this program had been effective back then, I probably would have finished my doctorate. But trying to raise a family and working and those kind of things. So I think that was a big plus for the nation to get that approved today. I know.
Not too late, you can go back.
I may, Don. Yeah. You thought I was kidding, didn't you? I really want some time
I
off.
thought you were serious.
Yeah, okay. I know Tom Elkins, he's kind of in the same boat. He would have finished his, and Diane Kelly, we've talked about that. So I think there's several that work here that it would have affected and may still yet. So just a comment. Management resources, we're going to talk about 14 counties today if you got time. You know, planning and development's over all of our clinics, and that construction's going on, and we're real pleased with that. We poured some cement at Oshaleta this week, Dick. Went real well. That's moving right along. It's slowed us down with the rain. The Salisaw Clinic, the addition is in the dry. We're working inside there, so that's really moving on. Stillwell, you know, that's they're doing the cement work down there and moving right along. Jay, still a little muddy, a little slow, but on track as well. So those are some of the pluses we have. Joe mentioned earlier that we went to the Heritage Center the other day, talking about Harley brings up the thinning of the pines at Bull Hollow. Joe and Stick and I, we went out and visited at the Heritage Center, and we're talking about cutting some of those pine trees and using them for some blinds and some shelters out there for that project. And so we've got a lot of things going on that are covering all of management resources. And so when Molly talks about me going to look at different sites, well, I do that, and so then I can come back and give these reports. So we're excited about what we're getting to do here at the nation, and I want to tell you, I've got some of the best people working for me that you can find anywhere. So I'm pleased with that, and I appreciate the opportunity to work with this council and get those things done. So that's all I've got to say. You got any questions, you can sure ask me.
Anyone have any questions?
Is that the back mill, Bruce, that you want to look at?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Councilor Berg?
Would you give me a time frame on the trees you're talking about for the ancient village there? I mean, I know we just sprung this on you last week, and it's probably not a fair question, but
Joe, it depend on if we were looking at 650 some logs when we first started. If we're going to do all the logs, or if we're going to do half, or we're going to do the cane, that would determine on how long it's going to take. But if we had to go in there and start, say today, I'm going to say 30 days to have what you need.
thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Thank you, Bruce.
All right, thank you.
Next report is Ginger Brown with the Real Estate Services.
Good afternoon. You have my report, and if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions for Ginger? Councilor Watts?
Thank you. Recently, I'm not naming names, but we had an issue, so I'm not disclosing anything. We had an issue around trust property that the Housing Authority requested the trust status or restricted status be revoked in order for it to be designated out. Does it legally have to be that way?
Yes.
Gary, is Gary here? Did he leave?
Yes, it does, and I'm sure it's according to their finding, but we have, with the same situation, we have many tracks like that. Counselor?
Well, I was trying to, there's, I'll try to find 24 CFR 58.1B11. No, that's environmental reviews. But somebody told me, because I asked a couple of questions to somebody, oh, here it is. So I thought there was federal laws that allowed for it to be mortgaged without the restricted status.
That would be a housing authority question. That's what they do require. Is Gary here still?
Okay, because I thought that would be your question, so I'll just ask him
Okay,
next.
all
Thank
right.
you.
I can add a little bit to that. There is a approved mortgage instead of a deed approval,
Oh,
but
well,
it's only if the bank will agree to it. And most banks will not agree to the approved mortgage process, because it hinders their ability to foreclose if they should ever have to. So almost all are requiring deed approvals where you release the restrictions off of it.
that situation that you were talking about was not one of those. Was not a deed approval.
Was it administrative removal?
No, it was, it needed a probate.
It's what, oh.
It needed a probate.
Oh, well, that's a whole different deal.
It is
You
a totally
gotta do
different
that.
situation.
You gotta do a probate to get it into a marketable situation so they can put a loan on it.
Yeah, I thought there was, but the part I was concerned about was the removal of the restricted status.
Now, could it be that the restricted status got removed because when you do the probate, they're gonna fall below the 1/2 flood quantum?
I think the heirs were full-bloods.
They were full-bloods, but there was another situation. There was a death in the meantime while the affidavit of surviving joint tenant was being completed. So there were just many other problems that piled up on top of that one.
That, each one of those in here are just totally unique.
Everything.
Each one of them is different. I do a lot of them, and I have yet to find a bank that will agree to the approved mortgage process.
So even though there's that federal mechanism, the banks don't care.
Yeah, banks are just interested in making sure that they can get their money or their collateral back in the event of a default.
Okay,
And they want the easiest method possible.
thank you.
Ginger, I recently inter-officed you some information. Did you receive that?
I received it.
You made contact?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions for Ginger? Counselor Betts?
I'm just curious. Ginger, you have Sequoia Schools and Oaks Mission School, decision to accept this trust, to trust, receive, and BIA property. Are you talking about Oaks Mission at Oaks itself?
No, the one that Rocky Ford over by, on the way to Oaks. Well, let me see.
Maybe it's
It's
ECK?
that,
Is it
no, it's that community building.
Oh, okay. Down at
The
Rocky
community
Ford.
building, yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ginger. Mr. Tom?
Good afternoon. I hope you have our report. I think there was a little mess-up at first, but I think we got it fixed, and I hope you have it in front of you. I got it together and got it to you all, and I made a mistake. The first line of it on the environmental reviews needs to be reflected. We did 100 this last month in May, and so it brought it up to 63% or 570 to date. Now that just looks at the housing and water and sanitation, which that's the lion's share of the environmental reviews we do, but I was just discussing this with somebody that used to work at the Nation and asked about how many we did, and it's usually between 900 and a little over 1,000 a year. And we only have about 4 people working on this, and so they really go through these things. And they do a lot of good work. I mean, it's not just them, but I was talking to somebody else. We are about a little less than 90% grant funded, and So now is grant season, and people are turning in grants. We have grants that we do almost every year, but there are some grants that we do, there's something comes out that we think is a good benefit or we want to try to do outside of the norm. And so one of the folks will, usually they bring it to me and we talk about it, and then they'll write it up. And most of the time, we have some really good grant writers that have been for the Cherokee Nation for 15 years or more. And for the most part, if they write a grant, if it's obtainable, we get it for the most part. We're doing pretty good. We got full funding that we think we've gotten full funding for the year. It's always a dance, but we always make it up one way or the other. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Tom? Counselor Buzzard?
I'm just curious, Tom, I know you do lead-based testing of asbestos. Have you seen a decrease in that in the last 5 years?
In the lead-based paint, certainly. For a requirement to look at lead-based paint on a house, if we're spending HUD money, it has to be built before 1978. We don't usually hit lead-based paint unless it was like late 60s maybe. Once in a while we'll get an outlier, but generally if it was built 78 or after, we hardly ever hit it. Well, probably 65 or after, we hardly ever hit it. But we do sometimes hit it. The bad thing of it is the regulations are so convoluted. If you do this, then you do that. If you're doing this, then you have to do this. So, and I'll give you an example. One is we do mortgage assistance on a, let's say, 1965 house. Somebody thinks they have a good deal on it, and well, the requirements are that you don't have to do lead-based paint testing, but you have to see if the paint is intact. Well, we don't even know if it's lead-based paint. So it can be non-lead-based paint, and the paint be failing somewhat, it'd be powdery or cracked and things, and we have to fail it, and they have to stabilize that painted surface, whether it's lead-based paint or not, before they can use those HUD dollars.
I'm just curious to see if you're seeing a drop in requests and seeing that.
No, folks are still wanting to buy and rehab older homes, and so if they're pre-78, we have to look at that.
Any other questions for Tom? Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Mr. Davis, you're up again.
Mr. Garvin, I'm proud to announce that we have the Veterans Center at 99% finished. We are touching up now on some of where we moved some of the artwork and replaced it for the 2 events. We're having some issues with the floor, and we're buffing it to try to find out, moving furniture around. We've scratched the floor some, so we're trying to get those issues resolved. We're waiting on the statues for to finish that project up, and then we'll be able to remove this from the agenda, I hope. So that's a good thing.
What's the latest on the statue?
As far as I know, they're in the, but they're in the molding design stages, okay? And that takes quite some time. They have to, form them, mold them, pour them, and those kind of things. So as soon as they let us know something, we'll let you know, okay? I have an announcement that GV is going after, we joined the Buffalo Council, South Dakota. They called us a couple of weeks ago, and they had 700 pounds of buffalo meat that they would like to give the tribe. So GV's sending a couple of guys to South Dakota tomorrow to pick up that meat. Now, if you have some events coming up and you'd like to have some of that buffalo meat for your event, contact GV, and he will fix you up with some buffalo hamburger or stew meat. So I think that would be a good plus for us. Totally lean, Curtis. No fat.
Can we have elk fry?
No elk. Buffalo.
Oh, buffalo fry, okay. That'll work.
Okay.
Counselor Watts?
Thank you. I know you've already thrown out community events, but is this something that we wouldn't include in our program for commodity foods and such at the
Well,
grocery stores, or we can't?
We're only getting 700 pounds this time. So that was a donation from the council to the tribes. And so we were just wanting to get it out there for our communities and, samples more than anything, because 700 pounds is not going to go very far. So later on, that's what we're intending to do.
How quickly, because we have 2 events, but they're not until October and November.
For the meat, we'll have the meat this week.
So how, would you store them? Because we
Oh.
shouldn't store them at our,
We bought a deep freeze to store the meat, so we'll have it available. Just let us know.
however you're dividing it up, I would request for the Victory Cherokee Organization hog fry and the Rogers County Cherokee Association
Okay.
hog fry.
And we will see how we're going to divide it up and let you
Okay.
know. Okay?
Thank you.
Counselor Berg?
I'd like to reserve some for our feed that we have for Labor Day weekend. Would you please get with Teresa at AAA
Okay.
Powwow Committee, because we always do a feed for some of the people that are here.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Counselor Garvin?
Mr. Davis, can you give us an update on the buffaloes,
All we're waiting on, there's a list of tribes that have put in for these buffalo, and we're on that list. There's about 5 or 6 of us. And that council will decide who gets the buffalo and how many. So it's really out of our hands. We're just waiting on them to let us know whether we're going to be able to receive them and how many, Don. And hopefully we'll be ready.
That council, what council are you talking about?
We're talking about the Buffalo Council from North America, okay? The council that we joined earlier in the year, okay? We are a member of that council, and there's 52 tribes that are members of that council.
Do you have any friends on the council?
We have a few. We do, yes.
Thank you.
Speaker Jordan, did you have your hand
I'd like to request some for all cities.
Sure, okay.
up? Counselor
Okay.
Lay?
I think the easiest way to do this, is there anyone that doesn't want any, or do you all want some buffalo meat? We all want some. Okay,
I wish I could, but
okay, all right.
don't think I can get it back to California in good condition.
All right. We will get it divided and distributed. How's that? Okay,
Got us all down?
yes.
Counselor
I think
Lay,
I
you
know
had
y'all.
your hand up.
Too good.
Yeah, I want some buffalo meat too, but are you gonna have any money left over from the Veteran Center?
That's a possibility, Dick. Yeah, I hear a whisper behind me, said we should, okay?
And what does that mean exactly?
That means there should be some money left over from the Veterans Center,
Okay,
unless we have some unforeseen cost.
that may arise any moment, or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay?
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Counselor Rockenstick, did you have your hand up?
I just want some buffalo meat.
Bruce, he wants a live one.
Stick, I was told that they're saving the tongue and the tail for you.
He'll take it.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Counselor Buzzer?
Bruce, has any other tribes in the council stolen the buffalo and put it into their food distribution?
Yes, they are, hardly, right now.
Commercially sell-
Yes, they are. Yes.
So there is a market out there.
Yes, there is. Yes.
And Madam Chair, I'd like to bring up, we usually we used to have a fish fry or a meeting in October at Bull Hall or one of our places. Might be a good place if we had any buffalo meat left over, but maybe not. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. Kind of keep it on our radar calendar to do something. Thank you.
Any other questions? Counselor?
You know about how many we have in October, save back enough patties.
Okay.
So we can
Okay.
make some.
All right. Are we planning on having it at Bull Hollow this October? Is that on the agenda? Okay. All right. I'll take care of it.
So it looks like that's it. Thank
All
you
right.
very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for the good news, Bruce.
We all like to eat.
Okay, we'll move on to old business and Victoria.
Oh, yes. This is Resolution 14-048, authorizing the approval and submission of the Cherokee Nation Forest Management Plan to the Bureau of Indian Affairs. And I would put this in the form of a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and second. Any discussion or any questions?
Pat Glenn. Oh, yeah, there he is. Hello.
Right there in
You're
front
wearing
of you.
black. I didn't see you. I want you to know that I read the entire thing, but it was like 6 weeks ago, and I completely forgot everything I read.
My apologies for having to read the entire document.
Pat, do you have any comments on this?
I'm here to answer questions. I know it's a long and arduous document. I have no free food to offer like Mr. Davis. Just an ample supply of Department of Interior red tape.
Counselor Watts, do you have your hand up?
Thank you. I really appreciate all the work that went into the document and all the technical details. Thank you. So, on page 14, on the loblolly pines and Kenwood, I'm just trying to make sure that I understand. So you document for the BIA the condition and where we're at, but I think later in the document you say that according to their plan, we are gonna be able to do some control burns,
Well,
but
this is
not
the.
do what we need to do, I guess?
Yeah, this is the forest management plan, which can basically be described as the commercial forest management plan. The fire management plan is a different document. It's also a Department of Interior derived document, but it is completely different. In this day and age, when we live in a litigious society, it's very difficult to get neighboring landowners to waive their right to sue when you want to do large, controlled burns. And the simple fact is that it's a very long process to get controlled burns done. I mean, the Cherokees and most Native American tribes have a long history with controlled burning. It's just that it's very difficult to get to do now.
I'm not an expert in this area whatsoever, but the description that you give towards the bottom of page 14 indicates that our commercial value is definitely at risk if there is any left because the health of the trees in the stand, but it also kind of, to me, would indicate that there is possibly problems. I mean, it's almost a fire hazard if we don't manage it too, so what are we gonna be able to do? Are we gonna be able to do anything to rectify?
I think it's the professional opinion of most resource managers that probably there are very few acres in the entirety of Oklahoma that wouldn't benefit from controlled burning. It's just that, as I said, it's very difficult to do, to get those approvals. Those approvals come from the BIA. It's a BIA signature. The funding derived from the BIA generally wanes every year to do those. The one thing that the fire program has been able to do, which I think the Cherokee Nation has been very adroit at doing, is that when we do have wildfires, when conditions are right, Natural Resources Department has been very good over the years of putting in expansive fire breaks. And so when those wildfires break out, rather than putting those fires out with water, fire, spray water, those fires are allowed to burn to one of our installed or natural fire breaks. And that has really helped manage the situation and limit the losses that we've had.
So are we gonna be able to do any commercial production? You kind of allude to some possibilities.
This plan, it's a Category 2 plan, does allow for a commercial harvest of up to 1.5 million board feet per year.
Will we do that harvest?
As of right now, the markets would not sustain the labor that it would cost to bring that in. And most of our citizenry, whenever polled, does not show much of a desire to go onto what remaining tribal trust lands we have and do large-scale timber harvests.
Fair enough. If it's okay with Councilwoman Vasquez and Councilman Buzzard, I'd like to be added as a sponsor.
Anyone else want to be added as a sponsor?
Thank you. Thank you, Pat.
Any other questions? Counselor Keenan?
Thank you, Madam Chair. On your supporting data, and on page 83 or 82, on the wildlife code, being a part, is that considered a part of the plan? Or just
No, it's
supporting?
just a
what it
supporting
says it
document,
is?
yes.
Okay, all right. And so we would like category 4, correct? But we're going to accept category 2.
I personally believe that the Cherokee Nation does meet the characteristics of a Category 4. This is the best Category 2, I think. We made our arguments, and our arguments were placed in the plan, and they agreed to say that, within the plan, they agreed to say that we were right, but they were going to go ahead and do a Category 2.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you, Pat. And good work on this. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you, Pat. We'll move on to new business. Counselor Thornton?
Yes, I want to bring this resolution authorizes the submission of a special grant application from the U.S. Department of Interior Energy and Minerals Development Program. And I make a motion that we pass this.
Motion and a second. Any questions? Okay, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Sure.
Okay, anybody want to be added as a sponsor?
Anybody, but you're on it. Don, you're
Okay,
on it.
but-
Already on it.
Any announcements? Next meeting is, my page here, July 14th at 4 o'clock. Motion to dismiss?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second. All in favor? We're done.
Chair, good job.
John.